Hey everybody, I'm making a quick video to talk about a post that I made, I think earlier today or the other day, about I said that lack of money is the cause of all unhappiness. And it's really interesting because a lot of people, most people, came on and said something to the effect of, because my post was lack of money is the cause of all unhappiness. Try and prove me wrong. And so I had a lot of people, because I invited them to try and prove me wrong, try to prove me wrong. And just letting the dog out. Come on, girls. And it was really interesting because people use arguments like, well, there's a rich guy on his deathbed and, he's really sick and, he just can't get the right, medicine or whatever, or, he's dying or whatever, and he can't buy me more life, and that's unhappiness. And how can you say that causes, that was money could have saved him or something? Or, somebody gets in an accident and their family gets killed or something, and how could money have saved them? So I'm going to make a video to spell it out for everybody, because clearly most people lack the processing ability to put the whole point together. It's like you have no ability to look beyond that little context that you've created in your mind, in your imagination, that is actually just a reflection of your bias and of your opinion. And so let me spell it out more clearly. And if this isn't clear enough, then let me know and I'll try to explain it another way. But think of it like this. We live in a competitive world. We live in a world where when you are born, you do not have money. You do not get money just by virtue of being alive. You must, according to the rules of our system, work to survive. You must work to get money. Unless you're born into a family where you don't have to work because your parents already have money. But even in those cases, somebody had to work and make money or create something or enslave other people in some way to generate money. And the higher your vocabulary, the more knowledge and information you have, the more open your learning ability is, the easier it is going to be for you to compete in this system and make money. And so for some people, it'll seem to come relatively easily, and for others, it'll be basically impossible. They'll never actually move up from the level that they're born into. Okay, so that's the basic premise. Everyone can agree with that. If you disagree with that, you're not paying attention at all. We live in a world where your existence is not guaranteed. You have to pay to exist. Imagine being born into a family that's wealthy. So you would think, well, there's no lack of money there, right? But imagine being born into that family and you're taught from a young age that everyone that's beneath you in life and beneath your station in life is basically stupid, ignorant, greedy, lazy, and doesn't deserve anything, and that they're going to try to take what you have, and you have to basically be ruthless. And because even those who are born into money or who have the ability to make money still have to compete in the system. And there's 100 other people competing in that same industry that they're in who are ruthless, competitive, smart motherfucking people. And it's like when you're in the world of business, you're like in the Olympics. You're not just competing against nobodies. You're competing against people who are really fucking good at what they're doing. So even people who have money, they're not able to interact in reality in a way where they're able to just give of themselves unconditionally. They can't. They have to compete. They have to be ruthless. And if you have ever made any money, you would know that what I'm talking about is true. If you were in business. And so, think about the fact that the world is set up along those lines. That the people who really make the decisions, because everybody else, okay, so you're not a person who's actually creating businesses and so forth, then that means you're a person who's working for a business, which means you're not making the rules. That means you're just basically a victim of your education. Because if you had an effective education, you wouldn't be working for somebody else. You'd have a business, you'd have residual income, you'd have real estate, you'd have all kinds of stuff where you don't have to work. You'd have a trust fund. So if you're working, that means you're chasing money. And if you're chasing money, you're going to chase money till you die. And so if you're working for money, that means there's no fucking way you're happy. Don't fucking lie to yourself. And there was somebody on there, I won't say who it was, but they said that they're making less money than they used to make and they're more happy. You can't be more or less happy. That's like you're just saying you're feeling less pain. You don't even fucking know what happiness really is. You have no idea. You've never experienced it. No one has. It's a lie. And so what's ironic about the statement that I made, that lack of or unhappiness or lack of money is the cause of all unhappiness, is that happiness in itself is a made up game. It's not real. There's no such thing as happiness. Happiness is a feeling. It's based on a chemical event in your brain. It's not real. It's just an experience. But in itself, yes, there's pain, there's pleasure, there's comfort. The problem is when people start getting into chasing happiness. And what happens is the desire for money and the realization that you can't make money makes people feel bad. And so then they go to the opposite polarity, which is, well, I don't need all those things to be happy, so now I feel happy. No, you don't. You've just stopped worrying about something. But that doesn't mean you're actually happy. You see, that's like you can't get a positive by just not participating in a bullshit made up game anyways, because you're still participating in the same game. Like, oh, I'm happy because I'm not chasing money. What do you do all day? What do you think about all day? What are you focused on? Then give up all of your money. Stop using money then, and then see what happens. It's total bullshit. And then even if you saying, okay, well, no, you truly are happy, if you want to believe that, what about all the people who suffer daily, on a daily basis, because we live in a global system based on money, based on an idea of limited resources and lack, and based on the fact that some values or some currencies of different countries are valued differently. Like, for example, a country like South Africa, I was just checking the exchange rates the other day, is right now 14-1 to the dollar. So one of my dollars gets 14 of their dollars. How can those people ever compete? I can go right now with one of my dollars and have 14 of dollars. And I've been to South Africa, and I could literally go buy a shirt for 16 of their dollars, which is like $1.10 or 20 or something of my dollars. I mean, think about that. That means we're extracting resources at a rate of 14-1 from those countries. And the bigger picture of what I really want people to see from that post was all the different reasons people will make up as to why money is not really that important to your happiness. But it's all a lie. It's all bullshit. Because at the end of the day, if you were honest with yourself, you would know that you're really thinking about money all the time. And most disease is really just stress. And if there are diseases that require things like, certain type of physical interventions, like medications and things like that, that's just money. Like, money and research goes into those things and can make it happen or not. And because of money and profit motive, sometimes cures and medical research is held back and suppressed. And you know that. It's always going to come down to money. And the bigger picture, too, is that when you look at the education levels around the world, what it really takes to raise a child to be as effective as possible as a human being requires absolutely zero stress. If there's even a moment of stress within the mother when the child is in the womb, the moment after conception, that stress gets programmed in physically into the physical form, the cellular structure of that child. And that becomes a pattern that is now going to limit that child for life. Even one moment. And now I want you to think, is there any parent who's experiencing anywhere near stress-free environment? even if you have your children at home like we did, even if you are perfect in your application with your children, the world we live in is designed to stress you out because you're constantly having to think about survival. And even if you aren't personally, because you've got something set up in, like, as a system, you still have to worry about everyone else trying to take what you have, because that's the nature of the world we live in. Why do you think people are getting off? Like, think about this. I kept seeing this viral video people were sending around on Facebook during Christmas of this guy who created, I guess, I didn't watch the video, but it's like some kind of like bomb, like a glitter package or something like that. I think that like blows up in your face, and I don't think it hurts you or something, but it's like if people are trying to steal, Amazon packages from your doorstep or something like that. And it's like, oh, we got that thief trying to steal our, that good for nothing, lazy, jerk, he got what he deserves. And it's like, did he get what he deserves? Because why is he in that situation where he's having to steal? And the fact that you're getting your packages from Amazon when Amazon is totally destroying the retail industry and destroying jobs, and like, you're not even considering any of that, and yet you're like judging this person who's trying to steal packages, probably to get drug money because they were traumatized as a child and they're trying to cover the pain of that, or they're trying to sell it to make ends meet because they're trying to get presents for their kids because their education sucks, so they can't really make money. And so the idea that what I'm suggesting when I said that unhappiness comes from a lack of money always is that the very nature of our economic system in this world globally creates an education that is dumbing people down. So then people now can't effectively live and get what they need in this world. They can't participate really fully as equals in this world because education is not equalized because of money. Because that's all it comes down to. The reality of how to educate a child properly is already known. It's been known by the elite for generations, and yet they don't do anything about it because there's no profit in that. They need workers. They need slaves. They need people to be sick. Because if they're not sick, then they're not going to get a cure. And so the idea that, it's funny because people... I made this other statement that seems to be controversial for some people, that money is God. And they're like, well, what do you mean God? Like, how do you define God? It's like, you know what the fuck I mean by God. You know what I mean by God. I don't need to define it. You know what it is. Money is God. And on the dollar bill, it says, in God we trust. I don't care if you're not in the U.S. The U.S. dollar is going to be the one that determines everything. I know the euro is a little bit higher right now, but barely. The U.S. dollar is going to be the one that determines everything. Everything comes out of the U.S. Why do you think Elon Musk, who's a South African, came to the U.S. to do everything that he did? Start PayPal, Tesla, etc. You just listen to what he says, because everything that's major comes out of the U.S. Apple, right? I mean, it's really... It's really disturbing, actually, how little most people can see about how everything connects in this world, how everything is interconnected, and how it all is run through money. Everything is run through money. And you really think that there's one thing that doesn't touch? And you think that happiness is some magical, mystical fucking force, like Harry fucking Potter? Like you can just sit and just like imagine that you're happy and you can be happy? Do you even have a fucking basic understanding of how biochemistry works and how your brain works? Your thoughts do not produce happiness. You don't even know where your thoughts come from. You don't even understand the fact that in the first 3 years of your life, you were programmed in the womb and in your environment as a child by every single thing your parents said and did. Every sound that you heard was programming you, and you were copying those patterns physically at quantum speed, integrating that information, and then that is who you are right now. Who you are is not choice. Who you are is not free will. Who you are is simply living out patterns that you have copied from the sounds and information that you heard when you were 0 to 3 years of age. That's why your life is so dysfunctional. And that's why you can't even do anything unless you fit into society. Everything you do is just a carbon copy of everybody else. That's what we do as humans, because we have so little creativity. Our abilities to express ourselves and to really think for ourselves is so fucking low that we literally can only just copy patterns that we see. We can't really come up with anything on our own. And then you want to act like, oh, happiness, I can be happy. That's just some bullshit that you fucking read in a book or you heard some guru say who was just trying to sell you something. And you have to be stupid to believe that. To believe that happiness doesn't depend on money. Bullshit. That is so dishonest. And what you don't realize is you're justifying abuse in this world, because there's people who suffer right now because of a lack of money. So if you're so fucking happy, why don't you go out and do something in this world? That's what you should be doing. Not sitting back and being like, oh, I'm just happy and my life's great. No, it's not. You're lying. It's not. Because you're not experiencing the suffering of every other living being on this planet that you're physically connected to. Do you really think that you're physically separate from any other being in this planet, any other physical body? We're all physically connected. There's no space between you and me. Just because you can't see the air doesn't mean there's no physical connection. You're not physically separate. So how can you say you're happy if you're connected to every other physical thing in this world and there's suffering going on? How can you be happy? You want to know the only way you can be happy is by creating an imaginary world in a little secret space that you call your mind, where you have all these little thoughts and imaginations and you believe that you're the center of this little movie that's going on. But I'm telling you, that's not real. And when you die, that's not going to exist, because that is a function of an electrical generation that's going on in your body. That little mental space that you have, that's called your mind, that's just a projection within your body. And it's like when you turn off the TV, the picture goes away. When you die, that little picture that you've identified with, that little movie that you're watching that you call the story of your life, that's not going to exist anymore. It's gone. You're done. And who you really are, you're not even going to be able to identify with that. And you're going to be so fucked, you have no idea how fucked you're going to be. When you die and you get to the other side, you're going to be so fucked, and you're going to feel so much regret, because all you did was try to chase happiness. So when I'm saying something like that money is the most important thing in the world, which is not like some original fucking idea that I had, it just makes sense. And then you react to that and you resist that. Do you know what that's saying? It means you don't really give a fuck about anything in this world, and you're just a program, and you're not going to amount to anything. And then when you die, you're going to be the one that's the laughing stock, not the Rockefeller story that you're telling yourself, like, oh, he was on his deathbed, and when they asked him what he wanted, he said just a little bit more money, and you use that to justify why money can't buy you happiness. And the reality is, you didn't do anything about the situation in this world. You didn't do anything in the context of what was actually best, and you justified it based on not having money and saying that happiness is more important. And what I'm suggesting to you is that if money does in fact run this world, which it does, then the only way for you to do anything that actually matters is to make a lot of money, but do it from the starting point of changing the systems in this world so that we're able to give to all equally. And when I say give to all equally, I don't mean bring everyone down to a minimum. I mean bring everyone up to their full individual maximum potential. And where everyone is at potentially right now could be more if our education system was more effective, if the monetary system wasn't depressing people. The amount of stress just from worrying about money that takes a toll on people in families and in relationships, and how many divorces happen just because of money, and how many, like when parents can't even really pay attention to their children because they're like thinking about work, or they're just trying to think, I got to get the kids in bed to go to school and do this, and if they don't go to school, they're not going to be able to survive when they're adults, and like all this shit. Because I don't participate in it, and when I don't participate in it, I see the relationship that I'm actually able to develop with my son and my wife and my daughter, and it's completely beyond what most people are even think is possible. They don't even realize what's possible. And I know I'm just scratching the surface in terms of what's possible, because I'm an individual in a larger collective system. So I can't change everything on my own. So just me with my own willpower trying to not participate in certain things, that in itself isn't going to be the full solution. If everybody has to change. The whole system has to change. Imagine if we had a system where you wake up and you don't have to fucking do anything, and you just have food, and you have shelter, and you have clothing, and you have the best internet, and the best computer, and the best transportation, and the best food, the best everything, and you don't even have to lift a finger. And you don't think that's possible? Really? What do you think Bill Gates' life is like? What do you think Jeff Bezos' life is like? Like, really? Think about it. But you know what? You don't even think that you're equal to either of those people. And that's why you won't do anything with your life, because you think they're superior to you, when in fact they're just like you. The only difference is they were programmed differently when they were children. And they might have some genetic advantages. But that in itself is not an excuse, because the genetic point is really irrelevant if we have a system that manages everything effectively. So really, it's time to step up and to really start questioning things, and not use your limitations as a justification for why things have to remain the way they are. The idea that you don't need money to be happy is retarded. It's stupid. Because if you had any idea about how child development works, and you understood how stress affects a child in those formative years, those first 3 years of their life, and then you are able to see the role that money plays in that. And in fact, just think about when you go to college, the types of things that you're able to study is all based on what companies are looking for in terms of employing people. You can't just study anything you want. And if you do, if you want to study some random fucking thing with no, like, then you can't even get a job. You see, so everything is limited based on that. I hope that is clear. I think that probably people are going to react and still not understand. But you know what the truth is? I don't care if everyone understands. I'm only looking for 1%. Because what we're doing is we're creating a movement where when we have enough people, we will be able to go to the United Nations and say, this is how to properly educate a child, and it must be a human right, and you can't argue with us because we have all the lawyers on our side who can make sure that it happens. We can go and say, look, we know how proper nutrition works. Everybody should have this type of proper nutrition as a baseline from birth. Always. Mothers shouldn't have to go to work. People should have enough money to live a comfortable life. We don't need to all be billionaires, but what if we could all be millionaires? What if we could all have a millionaire lifestyle? You don't think that's possible? That's more than possible. It's easily doable. There's warehouses full of food that's just sitting there rotting because they don't want to create a surplus and crash the fucking commodities markets or whatever. It's retarded, right? Yeah, I know you get it, Rob. You are a part of that new 1%. All right. So I would encourage people to talk about these things, make your own videos, discuss these points, because the more people that talk about it, the better. Oh, and one really quick last thing, if you're still watching, you need to go to eqafe.com. It's pronounced EQAFE. EQAFE. Every question answered for everyone.com. And sign up for their EQAF Unlimited program. I don't make any money from it. I wish I did, but they don't have any kind of a program for it. But I'm just letting you know. Just go on there and sign up for it. It's 30 euros a month, and you're going to get the realest information you can find anywhere in this world. Quite literally. Every possible question that could ever matter, you need to go there and start studying this stuff, because the education system has dumbed you down to the point where you don't know how a fucking thing works. You have no clue. And so when you're arguing stuff like money doesn't matter and stuff, that just shows me you're a fucking moron and you don't know anything. And you're pre-programmed to be a moron. You don't even realize it. Like, you're so dumb, you don't even know that you're programmed to be dumb. You're like a robot that's programmed to be stupid. And you're like defending it. And you're like, stupidity is genius. And I'm like, no, you're just dumb. You need to wake up. And you're not going to figure it out on your own. You're not going to figure it out just from watching my video. So you need to go check these things out. equaf.com. That's going to get you started. There's a lot more, but that is a very baseline point. You need to study this stuff because, and there's interviews on there like The Soul of Money that discusses like how money is actually the lifeblood of this entire fucking world that we live in. It's like the currency of consciousness, which you don't even know what consciousness is. You watching this video, you probably think consciousness is a great thing, not realizing it's a system designed to control you. That consciousness is actually a system of mind control. It's a system of government, right? It's designed to just keep everybody in line, and you're going to worship it like it's God. And that is a fucking mind fuck right there. And there's videos about the natural learning ability. There's videos about parenting. There's videos about relationships. There's videos about how this universe and this reality was created. So you don't know any of that stuff. And you're not going to understand it from looking at a fucking Bible. You know, the funny thing about the Bible is this. And this is not my original thought, but I think it's a pretty cool point, that in the Bible it says, you know, that the fall of man happened because Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? You've heard that, right? So, you know, God said, don't eat from this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, otherwise you shall die, and, you know, all these negative consequences. So they did it anyways. He kicked him out of the garden, right? And that was the whole story, was like, don't do that, right? And that was original sin, apparently, right? But now think about this. The whole Bible itself is all about what? It's all about good and evil. So the Bible itself is the knowledge of good and evil. In other words, the Bible itself is brainwashing you with the knowledge of good and evil by reading it. And in the beginning of the Bible, it says, hey, don't read this. Don't brainwash yourself with this. Otherwise, you're surely going to fall. And at the very end of the book, ironically, Jesus says, look, you need to become like a child again to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's within you, and we are all children of God. And yet, because everyone was so brainwashed by the rest of the book, they don't understand the end, and then they think that Jesus was some superhuman being coming to save them from all of their sins and forgive them, when in reality, he was trying to tell you to forgive yourself. That's how you could become like a child again. Become like a child means to enter back into that stage of those first 0 to 3 years where you got fucked up by your parents and by the education system and the environment and all that stuff, and all that stuff that's going on. And unless we create an environment that's going to allow children to maintain beyond those first 3 years that state of innocence like a child, where then you can actually give as you want to receive, because you don't have any preconditions on your giving. And you won't have any preconditions on your receiving. It'll just be based on what's actually best for you and the other person. Only and then will the kingdom of heaven be manifested on earth. It's not heaven like above us. And even then, it's as above, so below. So why would you want to wait and go to heaven? Why wouldn't you want it here? The only reason why you want to wait is because you don't think you're capable of producing it here, and you're expecting someone else to create it for you. Well, if I was that God that you apparently believe in, that was all about, you know, in heaven and all that shit, I wouldn't want you there, because you're a fucking asshole, because you're not willing to do what it takes here when it really matters and become a better person. You're not worthy of being in that place. So why would God want you there? So you got to realize, when you die, it's not going to be the way you think it is. It's not at all. It's the exact opposite of what you think it is. All you're going to realize is you fucked up when you were here. You were supposed to be doing something here. That's what Jesus was saying. He wasn't saying, come worship me and we'll all go to heaven later. He was saying, hey guys, I'm just showing you I'm like you. And if we all were like children and actually cared about each other and we just wanted to have fun all the time, we could make this place heaven on earth. And yet everyone's like so programmed by the idea of good and evil, like, well, you didn't say that with the correct word, and you didn't give the right, tithe before you did this thing, and all these rules and all this shit. And like, this person's bad and this person's good because they don't wear the right head fucking thing on their head, and this person doesn't do this right. And it's like, oh my God, you're missing the point. And what does it all come back to? Money. And Jesus, he went out and chased all the money changers out of the temple, right? Remember that? Where's the temple? This is called a temple, right? Right? This is your temple. And so you've got this fucked up idea about money in your head, thinking it's not important, when in reality, in the current system we live in, the way it's structured, it is the most important thing. The problem is the value of money is not the value of life. It's not given the value of life. It's just given the value of control. That's what money means. It means you've been able to control others and get what you want. You don't give a fuck what they do. You don't care about them as long as you get what you need. The value of money should be the value of life. Therefore, everyone should be given money so that they can live a comfortable life. And we should create a system to make that possible. That's what we should be working towards. You're going to have to work as it stands in this current system regardless. Regardless, you're going to have to work. Why not work in a way where we can create a system so that future generations don't have to work? Right? And I'll leave it with this. I posted this cool thing that I found on someone's Facebook the other day. It said, I don't remember who it was, the person who the quote's attributed to, but it said, the person who plants a tree knowing that they'll never sit under the shade is just beginning to understand life. And that's what I'm talking about. Let's make this world better. Let's actually stand up. And I'm not just giving you some figure out your own way to do it. No, there's a way. If you really are listening and you want to do it, talk to me. Reach out. We have a real legitimate way to do this. Doesn't mean you're going to understand it right away. And I've already pointed you in many directions, EQOF being one of them. But you have to start somewhere. So you need to start connecting. Watch more of my videos. Connect with people. Because you're not going to figure it out on your own. And the education system has dumbed you down to justify all of your limitations. So unless you start questioning that and you start using the tools that we're suggesting, you're never going to get through anything. You're just going to get to the end of your life. You're going to die and you're going to feel regret. Is that really what you want? Is that your definition of happiness? I doubt it. See you next time.